What is up, everybody? It's your boy Josh from the E.W.A clan. Today I'm bringing you guys a replay from quite a long time ago, actually. It is a 3v3 on Rhun in Battle for Middle-earth, patch 1.0, the original base game. I hope you enjoy. This is one of my favorite gameplays. I won't spoil anything. But today, here are our players. Like I said, I'm the only one from the clan in this video, and I'm playing as Isengard. And I start with a barracks with some pikemen, as well as alerts, and then a warg pit. Beneath me on my team, I have Raider Mori. He is awesome, we love him. He starts at the barracks and an archery range. And beneath him, we have McCANDLESS, who starts two spider pits here. On the opposing side, we have, I'm not going to just totally mispronounce this guy's name, so I'm just going to call him G for the purpose of this replay. But he's starting a spider pit as well as a goblin lair. And above him, we have our first dwarf, Dane, and he starts a gloin, which you can see him leveling up, as well as a wagon start. Above him, we have our other player who I'm not going to just totally slaughter the name of, so I'm just going to call him AK. He also got dwarves, and he's doing the same thing, leveling up his gloin here. He does a strategy that I really like, and actually after I played him in this game, I totally adopted, and that is building a mine right next to your gloin. The reason why I think this is so smart is because once he's leveled up to level 3, he's really close to getting his Shake Foundation ability. And as you can see, he's pushing up a builder, and he can just get his gloin right in this mine and off to just cause some damage. But as you can see, he starts making a mine, and I was sending my wargs out just to scout, and I managed to catch him. In the meantime, my Lurtz is up there. He's trying to get to level 3 because he's kind of useless before that, so you see him trying to take out the troll lair. But I do a good job clumping up my units to take down the mine, but I was just too slow on the drop. And as you can see, gloin as well as a unit of pikes and a unit of guardians get out. I do a trample, and I was going to hold my ground and help, but it's just such a losing fight with wargs against pikes and a gloin. As you can see, I lost half the battalion, so I pull off, and honestly this is not good for Raider because Men of the West just have such a hard time stopping the initial dwarf attack. So I go ahead and take this outpost up here, and G takes the bottom outpost, and I decide with my wargs I just kind of want to go and see what damage I can do to their base farms. So as you can see, Raider, he doesn't have the troops here, so instead of just leveling up his gloin, he decides to pull back and try and get a fight that he can win, especially because I told him that I was coming with what little I had. I make a big blunder. I bought the Murder's Crows to see more of the map, but that money could have been used more efficiently to help my ally here. I really regret it. As you can see, AK gets another mine up, and then 2 battle wagons from Dane come in, and that is super not good because wagons are so effective in patch 1.0. We're going to get to see just a taste of that. I do manage to get my Lurtz down here, and he's level 3, so I must have been microing my troops elsewhere, but I finally use my cripple shot, and as you can see, my archers push up from the back. Our big priority was just to take down the gloin, but as you can see, these wagons just start wrecking the entire base that Raider had. But thankfully, McCandless built this goblin tunnel here, and we're going to talk about why that's so important. But a lot of things are happening right now, so they heal up their gloin, and in pushes this other Dane's gloin, which is not good. But the spiders do manage to take down one of the wagons, and that's priority number 1 right now, is just to get these wagons taken care of. And thankfully we do manage to do that. We took out one of the gloins, but the other one is attacking the fortress. In the meantime, you can see my units pushing up. We're going to do some damage on the farms here. But as we're pushing that way, the goblin player for the other team is also pushing. Here's where I make a really colossal mistake. I thought I could take out this Gloin, and we were feeling really confident at this point that we had kind of beat off the attack. But here is where Dane does something so smart with his Gloin. So he gets the fortress down, the health down, and then I was foolish with my Lurts, and he kills my Lurts, almost as level 4, kills 1 spider and 2 spiders, and now he has level 4 Shake Foundations. So this is where, honestly, just disaster strikes. He uses his Shake Foundation, and boom, Raider is eliminated from the game. Really catastrophic for us. So now it's time for us to just try and recover. In the meantime, AK is doing a really good job keeping the pressure on us, sending in a builder, and I have nothing in my base to counter him at this point. In the meantime, I am keeping my wargs. These are my first wargs at the beginning of the game, just trying to harass where they can. We do manage to kill this Gloin, which was super good for us, but while we have a little bit of a break in the game, one of the reasons, especially for newer players who may not know this, you really want to have on a 3v3, if you have a Goblins on your team, you want to have a mine in all 3, or a tunnel, excuse me, a tunnel in all 3 of your allies' bases, just because if all 3 of your opponents decide to attack one player, oh man, not my builder, please not my builder, nope, I don't save him in time, but if all 3 of your opponents decide to attack one player, and let's say you're at the bottom of the map and everyone decides to attack me here up at the top, there's no way you're going to get there in time, but those tunnels are going to give you the ability to move your army between bases and keep your ally alive. But my Lurts, as you saw, returned to the map just in time. I tell my fortress to target the pikes, and I send my wargs in I did a terrible job clumping them here, but I was kind of more focused on this engagement. But I tell them to go clean up the mines to prevent any more troops just showing up in my base. So I do manage to kind of preserve myself here. The rest of my pikes show up, and then I send these wargs to take out this last mine. And this is actually a really smart play by AK. So my wargs are going to come and they're going to hit this. And he had troops in there, as you saw, but instead of sending them out because they weren't pikes, they would have just been killed and given me power points. So instead, he just destroys it to prevent me from getting any power points. In the meantime, that initial warg unit I had has cleaned out all the mine right here, the mine right here, and a mine up here. So I'm getting my money's worth with them for sure. They're doing a lot of work for me. But just as I thought I had beat off the attack and that I was in the clear, more wagons show up, and as you can see, they're just so unbelievably devastating in patch 1.0. We do manage to take down one wagon, and another wagon is just really hurting me bad. And just when it looks like I'm going to lose, my warg pit Lurts to the rescue. He takes it down, and that would have been devastating for me to lose either of those buildings, because I literally just seconds before got my Urk pit to level 2. So I don't want to deal with that anymore. So I do a Wildman summon to distract all the infantry in Dane's base, and I send what's left of those initial wargs. I just use their HAL ability, and I want to destroy the siege equipment just because I knew we couldn't keep beating off the wagons, and I thought that this was going to be our best chance of kind of preserving ourselves. Once again, I do a terrible job clumping my units in this game. Be better than me. But after the sacrifice of all of my wild men, we do manage to take it down. In the meantime, I'm just sending wargs out to kind of harass where I can and make sure that they don't gain too much map control. We do a terrible job making map control at the start, retaking our allies' base for ourselves, which would give us more command points and more money. But at the bottom here, you see G is pushing into McCandless's base. He really doesn't have a ton, but more Spider Riders are coming. We'll probably revisit that soon. As you can see, I am pushing with whatever I have, just really hoping to reclaim what was lost. You can see up here that a beacon is placed by G. He is the Goblin player, and he acknowledges that, hey, I see that they are pushing to your side, make sure you're ready. And so they go out to kind of distract me. In the meantime, the initial ward unit I had, level 5, is taken down because I wasn't paying attention. Rip to those fallen soldiers. They earned it. They will rest in Valhalla or whatever. They've earned it. In the meantime, though, me and McCandless do decide it's time to make a big push. So I have Lurts and some Wargs, and I'm also getting some more Wargs, but I just really don't want them to push. Down here, McCandless, with his fortress and these expansions, plus his Spider Riders, is able to beat back G's force kind of with ease. Plus, he can see that I am starting to attack Dane's fortress. So the reason why I asked McCandless to send his Spider Riders is because they are probably the best unit for killing any infantry in 1.0. So I just wanted him to do what he could to distract the Guardians for me and to just help thin out the infantry horde. So here's where I decide that even though I have gotten Gloin trapped here, that he is not the valuable target here for us. I decide that Lurtz's Carnage could be used elsewhere. Here you see me make a big mistake and lose half of that Warg unit to just some terrible micro. So we decide we gotta take out this fort. It's the only way. So in the meantime, here comes Lurtz. He's gonna use his Carnage ability, and I use my Creebane, which debuffs the enemy. It makes them so they do less damage and have less armor. I do that just to preserve my wargs. When they use their Howl ability, as you can see, it gives them plus 150 damage. So the damage on the fort is just going to start really racking it up, especially when Lurtz gets here and uses his Carnage mode. As you can see, though, G's Goblins show up, and they're going to do everything they can to stop my Lurtz. You see him go into Carnage mode. He is just getting hammered. He starts going for the fortress. And in the meantime, we see the rest of McCandless's spiders pushing up to just kind of reinforce our lines. I do some super noob here. Once again, I do a terrible job with clumping my units in this. Be better than me. Don't use your pikes like that. They do manage to get my Lurtz, but in the end, are we going to get the fortress? Are we going to get it? It's so close, honestly. It could go either way. And I'm sure they are just dying for a rebuild right now. They're probably just a few power points off. We managed to get it down, and then watch this. Right as it goes down, you hear the rebuild get used. We got it by just like a hair of a second. And all of a sudden, the game isn't over compared to what we thought it was. We thought when Raider went down that it was going to be impossible. From the top, I'm still just doing everything I can to push. And I've made some Berserkers and some Wargs, and those are Isengard's best units. A combination of them is so unbelievably effective. In the meantime, we were trying to do as much damage as we can to Dane's base, just to cripple him. And at the time, we thought this is his last building, and that we got all his builders. I don't know why we thought that, but I guess it was maybe just hopeful optimism, especially after the play that we just had. Here, I'll switch so you can see some of the other PowerPoints that the players have here. So as you can see, that's the rebuild that was just used by AK. But all of these units now, they're not going to be getting out anytime soon. They are just sacrificial lambs at this point. They did their duty for the good of the Empire. Up top, you see I'm just still trying to harass the farms. I managed, that was a Goblin tunnel, which means that the Goblin player G can't just spawn his Spider Rider horde up here, and that was super important because I'm sending these guys. In the meantime, AK is sending his builder elsewhere. And here is a super important lesson that I think even a lot of experienced players make the mistake of doing. So I'll explain it after it happens. So I use my wargs, and berserkers are super good at just tanking arrows. So he is taking the axes, so my wargs aren't getting hit, and my berserkers are hitting this fortress. And it was AK who used the rebuild, and the other dwarf player lost his fortress, so they don't have a rebuild at this point. But as you saw, I only war chanted my berserkers, and here's why you have to do that. In patch 1.0, buffs never stack. At least your personal buffs never stack. Meaning, if I would have war chanted my wargs, instead of doing the plus 150 damage from their howl ability, they would have only done a 50% damage ability from the war chant. It would have canceled out the howl ability. So never ever ever, like under any circumstance, war chant your wargs. It just ruins them. It makes them so much weaker. Please do not do it. Don't do it for your ally thinking you're helping them. So the fight's going to continue over there. That builder that was sent over to build a mine is forced to build a barracks because he sees that his base is in trouble. And we do manage to get down his barracks over here, but it's going to cost us the rest of our troops. But my Lurtz spots what's happening, so I managed to stick Dane's Gloin, and he wasn't watching his builder, and I'm able, with my Lurtz, to just pick him off. Which means this barracks here is mine for the taking. And I have some pikes pushing up as well, just to poke at the barracks as well as Gloin. And you see Dane drops the beacon saying, dude, if I lose this Gloin, we're screwed because I don't have a fortress. And unfortunately, the Goblin force is down here fighting off its own problems with McCANDLESS. McCANDLESS does such a good job this game, just distracting the enemy and keeping the Goblin player busy. Because Goblin players, those Spider Riders are such a good counter to just about everything Isengard has. So here we see Gloin is fighting for his life. He's going for a run. He's trying to make it to make an attack on my fortress, but Dwarves are just so unbelievably slow. The White Hand cannot be stopped, and he goes down. At this point, I'm starting to make upgrades for my troops, and as you can see, I'm still just keeping as much pressure as I can on the Dwarven players. At this point, I realize that we kind of have the advantage. It is still far from over, but the point of where I was scared that it was a 3v2 GG for them, that they were going to win, that is passed, and the advantage is now shifted in our favor. Green Dane here loses his last mine, and an important thing to note for newer players, when you lose your last mine, the troops inside do not die, but they're forced out, which can be disaster had I been paying attention, because I may have been able to kill that builder, but instead we decide that that if we can take out this last building, then it'll be good. So you see I use my Creebane to make the damage output of the Goblins lower, and all of these wargs are going to just be peppered with arrows, but in the end we get it. But little did we know there's another builder alive and another building alive. So the Goblins finish off my wargs, just a pile of death right there. But here is a major communication error between those players. I'll switch over to the perspective of the remaining dwarf player, and you'll see what I'm talking about. As you can see in the bottom left, he only has 250 resources, and a mine shaft costs 300. But instead of asking for money from his partner, he just kind of accepts his fate and sits there. And I think that was a crucial error on the other team's behalf that is just so unfortunate, because I don't think the game was anywhere near over yet. But he just never decides to ask for money. In the meantime, my Lurtz pushes up with my pikemen, and I send in like a little splinter force of berserkers, and as you can see, I've purchased upgrades for my war grinders. So they have the armor as well as the forged blades upgrade, and I was microing with my orcs or something, my urkai, excuse me, and I just totally didn't even notice that we were walking by the straight spider nest. There are so many of these stupid spiders, and I was just totally oblivious to it. So you'll see me stop. I don't know, they were checking Facebook or something, and they just get demolished. It was so unfortunate. But here you see a really good job of clumping your force, and you'll see just how much damage they do when you clump like that. So we kill the builder, kill the mine, and then we kill this lumber mill, and my berserkers get trampled. One of them survives, and you'll see why berserkers are good against goblins, but then you're going to see just how fast they drop. So he managed to get a good amount of spider riders, but then he's taken down. I would say this attack was super successful just because by pushing this much, we've kind of set the precedent that there aren't going to be any farms allowed outside of this bottom base, and it's going to be just hard for him to defend. Also, by killing his builder, we just dealt a really crippling blow. In the meantime, McCANDLESS is pushing up with his spider riders, which is super, super important for our sake. As you can see, he drops his Tainted Land, which gives him more armor and helps him do more damage. And in comes the spider horde. We decide that this is kind of where we want to make our stand, and the morale on the enemy team is super low, and you're going to see that in the top here, even though he still has a builder, he just decides to call it GG and destroys his last building, which, once again, I don't know if the outcome would have changed had they just asked for a little bit of money for a farm and to kind of reestablish himself, but it is really unfortunate that he just kind of called it GG. So we are fighting. I use a Wildman summon. McCandless does an incredible job. He takes down not just one, but two of the spider pits for the Goblin team, which, although he's giving him a ton of money by losing his spiders, it's more of the time setback for him, because time is definitely on our side. So he managed to take down both of them, which means he's going to have to rebuild them and upgrade them before he can get any more spider riders on the field. The green and white, I'm not going to lie, make it a little bit confusing, especially when they're debuffed like that, but those were McCandless's spiders. Here we see G just trampling all of my Wildmen in the middle there. But this is a level 2 treasure trove, which means he was going for upgrades, but before he can purchase any upgrades, boom, down it goes. So that was a big win for us. But as you can see, these spider expansions, they are just annihilating my Wildmen. And in comes my Lurt's little splinter force. Also, I'm sorry that I know the graphics aren't as high as I want them to be, and there's just a little bit of lag in the replay. I've actually turned my graphics up. I play on very low. My computer is such a toaster. So I have it on low and the game runs perfect, but I know it's so hideous to look at, so I've turned it up to medium, and just that small difference for the game makes it, you can see there's just a little bit, it looks like Lurtz is cutting through, like, I don't even know, ice cream in a freezer sometimes. Like, he's moving so sluggish, but, so sorry about that. Hopefully that'll change in future replays. But as you can see, Lurtz is just getting peppered by the arrows of the spider riders. A little bit of a slideshow of arrows there with how slow they're moving. In the meantime, I'm pushing all of another army, and I'm still trying to get out berserkers. One big error I make, please, for all that is good, if you're Isengard, get the fort upgrade that makes upgrades cheaper at this stage in the game. I don't know, I'm paying way too much for my upgrades, and the expansion on your fortress is only 500 gold. Like, it's dirt cheap. So That was a big mistake by me. As you can see though, we finally have started to reclaim the map. I'm expanding my farms to get more command points as well as get more resources. But I also make another big mistake here and just don't make any lumber mills to harvest all of this huge clump of trees. And at this point we have the advantage. They're not really pushing. My things are safe. So I regret not doing that, but it happens, you know. Everyone is a 5-star general after the fact of the game. But I decided to take this Signal Fire. What Signal Fires do in Battle for Middle-earth 2 is make it so your power points, or like your special abilities, they recharge quicker, which is super good. And I'm just still taking back map control. I'm doing the same here. He runs right past my wargs. I'm pretty sure this is intentional. He is a much bigger target. He knows that for him to win, he's got to take down a fortress now. And lucky for him, right now I don't have a ton in my base, but I am making more troops, and Lurtz just got back on the field. What a G, showing up right on time every time. Gandalf has nothing on him. Speaking of G's, he gets another spider pit up, and I manage to take it down with that warg unit that I sent in. And he's doing something really smart with his builder, but we're going to come back to that because here comes a big engagement. So in a panic, I put up more wall hubs just to protect my fortress, because I realized that I didn't really have a whole ton here. Some pikes get out just in time, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. But just like we talked about, McCandless had a mine here. His spiders come out, and all of a sudden this attack becomes so devastating for the Goblin player on the other team. There is basically nothing he can do. He isn't going to take down the fortress, and he's losing just so many units. And Spider Riders are not cheap units whatsoever. This is a big catastrophic loss for him, especially because we once again just took down his spider pit. So this leaves him on the run. And after all of the units he lost, he barely took any damage to my fort. So once again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Tunnels in your allies' base. It is the best way to be a team player. But that smart thing that G was doing is this. He knows that we're going to be pushing with everything we have into his bottom base. And that means he's going to be losing a lot of farms. Because he only has 2 farms standing, plus his fortress, his command points are incredibly low right now. This is my allies. He has a ton, as you can see. And yeah, here is him. So he only has 370 at this point in the game, and that is because he is starting to expand up. And the reason why I think this is so smart is these tunnels are going to be safe, while anything he would have built in his base, every time we would have attacked, he would have been losing them left and right. The players we play with in this game especially, they are no scrubs. So I was, especially watching this back, I was like, man, that was a really good call. In the meantime, we are just chasing out the Spider Riders that were in my base. Just looking for a fight. I had one Berserker here. He was waiting patiently for the whole army. He finally gets his chance to shine, but right when he takes his big swing, he is just put down. In the meantime, those pikes I sent up are marching in. Here, to all 1.0 players, just there's never a good reason to make a Mountain Troll expansion on your fort. I would always recommend going for these Spider Hall expansions. If he had them all around his fortress, it would be really hard for Isengard units especially to be able to push up through and take down the fortress. But man, the only time I would recommend just not making these is if you're up against a Mordor, and maybe in a future cast I'll explain why. But for the purpose of this replay, I'll keep that a secret, just so you guys have something to look forward to. But as you can see, we are making our big push. His Spider Riders show up. Another thing that I really liked, I've adopted this strategy more recently. I didn't even notice it in this replay, and I don't even think he did it for this reason in the replay. But because 1.0 is so unit-based, fortresses drop incredibly fast. So one really smart tactic, I'd recommend this more in late game, not in early game, is to build just barracks all around your fortress and upgrade them. Because once barracks is hit level 3, they have a ton of hit points, and they can prevent your enemy from taking down your fortress, as they just tank most of the damage that your enemy's going to output. But at this point, the Goblin player, he didn't have enough money to even be financing that. I'm sure he was doing it just to defend himself. Over here, you can see the powers I have. I have War Chant, Creebane, Summon of the Wildmen, and I have this stupid Freezing Rain. It's by far the worst 15-point power in all of patch 1.0. I stand by that. I always will. The only reason I ever pick it is so I can make sure I get the dragon summon. So I thought this was the end of the game, so I summoned my dragon, and I'm like, I just want to see him get some action. So dragon is not very good against buildings, so I was like, here, I'll just have him burn these little low-tier goblins for the meme or whatever, right? So don't worry, I sure get the goblins, as well as so many of our units. We just set them ablaze, but oblivious me pays no attention. My dragon's feeling real pumped because he just got 50 for 1, but only 4 of them were enemy units. So he goes ahead and sets it ablaze, and these are all McCANDLESS spiders, or they were until they all were just set ablaze. So that one I noticed, and I go, okay, well, the loyal teammate McCANDLESS, I have just repaid him with so much death. So I pull my dragon away, and he walks his head away in shame. But despite all of that, I do believe we're going to be able to get his fortress here at long last. So we managed to kill some more of the wildmen. These are G's wildmen. He summoned them to slow us down. He was fighting to his last breath, honestly. So we take down his fortress, and as you can see, I've been expanding out, and I am sending my lords this way. With his fortress being down, we know that he's just got one building hiding, and that means it's time to begin the search. One important thing I love about players is you never know what they're going to do. So even though we think we've pretty much won it, you can see that he is still making units, McCANDLESS, and I'm doing the exact same thing, making units. At this point, I'm only going for wards just so I can move fast. And the reason why I think that's so important is, although all he is building right now is a goblin tunnel, you never know what your opponent's doing. And there are so many smart players on Battle for Middle-earth, it's insane. He could have been building a fortress knowing that his was going to be going down, and we could have come up here and he could have basically had a second base. So always be ready for another siege, honestly. But here we see this just fatal crossing. Lurtz catches the builder. He gets one shot off. I do a Wildman summon to try and get him, and they swing but they miss, but Lurtz never misses. He sneaks that shot in, and all that is left is this little barracks and some goblin tunnels, and we have found the goblin tunnels. So G calls it GG, and that is it. We have been victorious. The comeback from after Raider was taken out by the Dwarf Rush. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed. We are new to the YouTube scene, as you know, but we've been playing 1.0 and Battle for Middle-earth for about a year now. At least I have. That's when I met the other two guys. We're super excited about where this channel's going, and we're going to be casting all sorts of games and replays, not just 1.0. We're doing Rise of the Witch King, 1.9, 1.6, and maybe even some Age of the Ring. We'll see. We're still exploring what's out there. So subscribe for more content, and as you know, I am just one member of the E.W.A clan. There's also Zidane and Axel. So they will also be doing commentaries on some of their favorite battles and some of the battles that we've done together. But I really hope you guys enjoyed, and if you ever want to join us in this community and start playing the game yourself, or you want to just, you already play and want to have some battles with us, feel free to play with us anytime. We are pretty active still in the Battle for Middle-earth scene. So for real, hit us up, and we hope to see you guys out there. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions about downloading the game, and we'd be happy to help you. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to comment and subscribe.